My cousins mocked me for still renting at Grandma's 80th celebration. Still renting. Tyler laughed, clinking his champagne flute like it was a bell. He said it loud enough to rise above the piano and the candle chatter, and heads pivoted like weather vanes toward me. I smiled the polite smile I've practiced at housing clinics when landlords call tenants unmotivated. My name is Jamie. I'm 30. I rent a one-bedroom near the bus line, and I help seniors keep their homes when paperwork gets predatory. That's my job. Boring to some, sacred to me. Tonight was Grandma Ruth's 80th at the Lakeside Banquet Hall, glittering with gold balloons, a slideshow, and her favorite carrot cake with the sugared walnuts. It should have been uncomplicated joy. Instead, my cousins turned it into a stage. Brooke tossed her hair and chimed, "You know, with rates stabilizing, it's the perfect time to buy. She sells houses the way magicians sell wonder. Hand flourish, ink on paper, smile that says you're lucky." Tyler added, "Ownership is responsibility. Renting is just practice." He's the kind of guy who says runway about his debit card and founder about a Telegram group. Grandma Ruth blinked at us from the head table, a soft cardigan around her shoulders, her wedding ring glinting in the video light. I raised my glass to her, not them, and said, "To 80 years of staying put." The line got a scattered laugh. But as the servers brought coffee, I saw an envelope sitting on the gift table with Grandma's name and, in the window, a return address from a mortgage lender I recognized from a complaint last month. My body tightened. It could have been junk mail accidentally mixed with cards. Easy mistake. Yet something in Tyler's grin and Brooke's stage whisper about paperwork Grandma signed kept snagging me like a hangnail. I thought about my caseload. Seniors who signed things they never understood, relatives who helped for a fee, signatures that traveled farther than the hand that made them. I tucked a napkin into my purse like that could steady me. I don't pick fights at parties, but my work has taught me a ruthless rule: paper beats posture. So, I breathed in the smell of coffee and buttercream, smiled for one last group photo, and promised myself I'd check the recorder's website in the morning. If there was nothing, I'd delete the thought, forgive the mockery, and mail Grandma a photo book. If there was something, I'd need more than my clinic calm. Because if that envelope meant what I feared, Grandma's paid-off once bungalow might already be moving without her. And Tyler's toast might be the first drumbeat. Tyler leaned close and whispered, "Renters don't understand legacy the way owners do, Jamie." The envelope wasn't junk. It was a warning dressed like a birthday card. We grew up in the same cul-de-sac. 3 houses, 1 ritual. Sundays were Grandma's roast chicken, crayons on placemats, and stories about Grandpa fixing the porch rail with a dime and a prayer. Back then, Tyler dug moats for action figures, and Brooke made catalog collages. I wrote prices next to pictures and asked Grandma why some people had to move when the rent went up. She'd say, "A house is a promise, honey, not just a roof." When Grandpa died, the bungalow stayed paid off, and Grandma refused to shuffle to a condo. She planted tomatoes along the fence and kept the mortgage note framed behind her church certificates like a talisman. Brooke went to real estate school and learned to say equity like a hymn. Tyler learned to say disrupt like a threat. He bought a car before he bought health insurance. I became a housing caseworker because I remembered the way Grandma exhaled when letters said paid in full. My cousins assumed my rent was a symptom of failure, not a plan. My rent means I can leave a bad landlord at lease end, that I can live near my bus route and clinic, that I don't strap myself to debt I can't carry. You're afraid of risk, Tyler likes to say. I'm afraid of pretending risk is a personality. 2 weeks before the party, Brooke had sent me a link to one of her listings, gray shaker cabinets, farmhouse vibes, and a price tag that would chew my entire salary. "You could afford this if you stopped wasting money on rent," she texted. I replied with a thumbs up because explaining numbers to people who measure with vibes is a full-time job. That was the fresh bruise under my sleeve at the banquet. The certainty that for Brooke and Tyler, ownership isn't shelter, it's a scoreboard. And Grandma, who hates money talk at her table, doesn't see how loud their scoreboard has gotten. I drove home from the party with carrot cake sweetness and acid in my mouth. At my apartment, I opened my laptop and pulled up the county recorder. The search fields looked like they always do: name, parcel, date. I typed RUTH with careful fingers and braced. No new trust recorded. No deed transfers. No quitclaims. Then, tucked among the older documents, an assignment of beneficial interest filed 3 weeks ago, referencing a home equity line of credit reopened after 20 years. My neck prickled. Grandma hates debt. Grandma reads the fine print with a magnifier and a pencil. Grandma would have called me. A pop-up ad flashed. Tap your equity. Your future is waiting. Someone had tapped Grandma's equity, and the signature didn't look like hers. The next morning, I brought coffee and flowers to Grandma's, pretending normal. Her living room smelled like fabric softener and lemon oil. The porcelain birds watched from the mantel. She was still in her nightgown, slippers too big, hair in pink curlers. You shouldn't have spent money on flowers, she scolded, hugging me anyway. We sat, and I asked soft questions. Any new mail, any calls, anyone helping with bills. She frowned at her knitting and said, Your cousin Brooke brought papers. Something about a trust, so the house won't go to probate. I said I'd think on it. My stomach dipped. Did you sign anything? She hesitated. A postcard to get information. Maybe that was it. Postcards are the first net. Reply for a free guide. And the sharks have your number. I rifled the mail basket with her permission. Among church newsletters and coupons, I found a thin envelope with a Bank's Blue logo and a line. We're pleased to confirm your draw schedule. Draw schedule, like a timetable for siphoning. The letter referenced a Ruth Family Holdings LLC. I asked, Grandma, do you know that company? She wrinkled her nose. We're not a company, we're a family. I snapped a photo of the letter from my records. My phone buzzed. A text from Brooke. Don't scare Grandma with your renter paranoia. We're protecting the house. The phrasing snagged me. We. Protecting. From what? Probate is real, but there are transparent ways. Transfer on death deeds, proper trusts, attorney letters. Not shell games. I asked Grandma gently if Brooke or Tyler had access to her mailbox. Sometimes Tyler brings it in, she said. He says porch pirates love old ladies. I smiled, but my palms went cold. I asked for the spare mailbox key to help, and Grandma, bless her trust, handed me the second key from a blue teacup. In my line of work, a second key is often a second story. On my way out, I noticed survey flags like tiny plastic lilies poking the soil along the side yard. The neighbor, Mr. Patel, waved his newspaper and said, they measured last week. Said something about setbacks, a future ADU. Accessory dwelling unit, tiny house in the yard. It can be benign. It can also be a cash lever. I thanked him and snapped a photo of the flags. Back in my car, I opened the recorder site again and pulled every document referencing Ruth Family Holdings. A pattern emerged, small advances, spaced days apart, autopay set to a burner Gmail. The dates overlapped Grandma's doctor appointments. I stared at my screen until my reflection looked like a stranger. If I was right, the first draw had already left her account yesterday. I decided to test the soft route first. I texted Brooke. Can we talk about what Grandma signed? She replied lightning fast. Stop dramatizing. It's estate planning. I wrote, estate planning doesn't involve burner emails. She read it and didn't respond. At lunch, I stopped by the bank branch that had issued the HELOC, flashes of a compliance training I attended last fall pinging in my head. I introduced myself to the desk officer, showed ID, and said I'm Grandma's housing caseworker and granddaughter, concerned about potential elder financial exploitation. The words are heavy, but they opened doors. The officer said he couldn't disclose details without authorization, but handed me a pamphlet with the fraud hotline and took a copy of my written concern for their internal flagging. That night, my phone lit up with Tyler's name. You don't understand how wealth works, he said, voice silky with patient contempt. Brooke set up a trust to avoid probate. The HELOC is leverage for improvements. We'll refi and pay it down. It's like Wealth 101. I said, whose email controls the draws? He laughed. You read a letter and think you're a detective. Renters love mysteries. Owners love solutions. He hung up before I could ask permission for a three-way call with Grandma. The next ping was Brooke. Stop calling the bank. You're embarrassing the family. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing Grandma's hands, the brown spots like constellations, trembling over her knitting. The mortgage note behind glass. The survey flags. The letterhead. I thought about every eviction I've fought and how quickly a house becomes an asset on someone else's spreadsheet. I pulled up the LLC registry. Ruth Family Holdings Manager, Tyler LLC. Tyler's fingerprints in bold caps. Registered agent. A P.O. box at a UPS store. The shell of a shell. I printed everything and stacked it on my kitchen table until it looked like a thin, cruel book. At noon the next day, a white Prius nosed into Grandma's driveway, and a courier hopped out with a clipboard. I parked at the curb and watched. He rang the bell. I walked up, smiled, and asked what he needed. Signature for authorization confirmation, he said. I glanced at the line. The font screamed template. The blanks were begging for a trembling hand. I can't sign, I said. I'm not the owner. He shrugged and left the door tag. When Grandma asked, should I sign? I said carefully, not yet, okay? The door tag deadline was 48 hours, and the clock had started ticking. Families don't split with a bang, they fray. Grandma made her famous chicken soup that evening and invited the three of us to talk nice. Brooke arrived first, smelling like eucalyptus and leather seats, phone case monogrammed. Tyler swaggered in late. Hoodie expensive in the way only rich pretend can be. I'd brought a folder, the draw schedule, the LLC registry printout, a senior exploitation checklist from my clinic. Uncle Sam slipped in quietly, kissed Grandma's cheek, and stood by the archway with folded arms like a bouncer at a church door. Why are we doing this? Brooke asked, slicing bread too hard. Because Jamie is spooking Grandma. I breathed, looked at Grandma, and asked if she remembered authorizing anyone besides me to discuss her finances with the bank. She shook her head. Tyler rolled his eyes. HIPAA for houses, he snorted. Uncle Sam's voice cut through. Don't be glib. The soup tasted like childhood and dread. I took out the letter and read the line about Ruth Family Holdings. Brooke's jaw did a small, involuntary tick. It's a holding company, she said smoothly. It holds. I asked, what does it hold besides draws? Tyler said, improvement funds. For what improvement? I asked. Brooke spread butter with precision and said, an ADU for Grandma's caregiver or rent income. Smart in this market. Uncle Sam glanced at the backyard through the blinds. Does Grandma want a tiny house? He asked. I'm right here, Grandma said, voice small. I want my house like it is. The table went still. Brooke recovered first. Ruth, this protects you, she said. Trusts avoid probate. If something happens, the house won't get tied up. I asked, then why is Tyler the manager of the LLC? Tyler grinned. Because I'm good at operations. I slid the registry across the table. Uncle Sam read it, his mouth flattening. Registered agent at a UPS store, he said. Brooke flushed. It's normal. I said, normal would be Attorney Diaz's office, not a box under someone else's box. The doorbell interrupted us. The courier again, holding a second authorization form. Brooke reached for Grandma's pen hand, and Grandma flinched like from a flame. That flinch broke something. Grandma's hand trembled over the glossy form, a bead of soup shining on her spoon. I don't like this, she whispered. I slid the form back to the courier. She needs time and counsel, I said. He frowned, muttered about metrics, and left. When the door clicked shut, Brooke snapped. You're turning this into a spectacle. I kept my voice level. I want clarity. Let's call Attorney Diaz. Neutral. We can all be present. Tyler laughed. Lawyers just slow money down. Uncle Sam said, money should be slow when it's not yours. I excused myself to use the bathroom, ducked into the hallway, and checked Grandma's modem. A second Wi-Fi network sat there, oddly named Ruth Guest Setup. Guest networks aren't inherently bad, but the installation date on the sticker was last week. I scrolled Grandma's call log with her permission, blocked numbers with 3-minute voicemails, a voicemail transcription mentioning confirming wire window, and one voicemail from a loan concierge with a direct extension. I snapped photos. Mailbox, keys, phone, Wi-Fi, layers of access. Predators don't need genius, just proximity and paperwork. On the way back, I saw a printout poking from Brooke's tote. A Gmail thread printed without headers, subject line draw cadence. The top address was a burner variant of Grandma's name with numbers and a dot. I lifted the paper. Brooke yanked it back. Boundaries, she hissed. You first, I said. Grandma watched us like a referee who hates the game. Uncle Sam touched her shoulder. Ruth, do you want us all here? He asked. She nodded, tears glassing her eyes. I want my house, she said. I set up the living room TV with an HDMI cable and mirrored my laptop. I opened the recorder site, the registry, the bank's fraud pamphlet, and the clinic's Know Your Rights page. We're going to walk through this together, I said. Plain language. Dates. Sums. Tyler joked, PowerPoint in a cardigan, but I saw his knee bounce. I started with the oldest document. Then I clicked to the assignment of beneficial interest dated 3 weeks ago, signed states away, notarized by a traveling notary who'd been in a different county the same hour. The timestamp mismatch glowed. Brooke's smile shrank. Tyler's jaw set. Uncle Sam exhaled through his nose. Then my phone buzzed with a text. Stop or the house goes on the market Monday. The number was unknown, but the message included the parcel number. Someone wanted me to know they knew the ground coordinates of Grandma's life. Who is this? I texted back. Dots pulsed, then vanished. I screenshotted and airdropped it to the TV. The room inhaled. Tyler shrugged way too casually. Scammers pull parcel numbers, he said. Nice try. I called the number. It went to a generic voicemail. I saved the audio. Paper beats posture, but posture gets loud when paper appears. Next stop, the county recorder in person. I asked Grandma if she'd like to come. She shook her head, tired. Uncle Sam came. Brooke declined, claiming open houses. Tyler said he had a call. At the recorders, fluorescent lights hummed. The clerk recognized me from clinics and slid the terminal password. I searched. A notice of commencement filed by Ruth Family Holdings for site prep and utilities on the ADU. The permit contact email matched that burner variant. Estimated cost, $38,500. I paid the fee and printed a certified copy. Uncle Sam stared at the page like it was a medical scan. We then swung by the bank again. I submitted a written request to place an elder exploitation review hold on further draws, citing specific statutes. The officer, Mr. Naidu, took it seriously. We can escalate to our compliance team, he said. If the draws are unauthorized or if there's undue influence, we can pause. I handed over copies of the dubious notarization and the mismatched timestamps. He photocopied our IDs and gave us a case number. It felt like sandbags before a storm. Heavy, necessary, maybe not enough. On our way out, a young woman approached me in the parking lot. Do you work with seniors? She asked. She'd been a temp at a title company. A guy named Tyler asked about quitclaims for an elderly relative, she said. But he wanted to sign as manager of an LLC to speed things up. She described his watch, his cologne. It was Tyler. He said the family wanted to unlock dead equity. She handed me a crumpled sticky note with an internal extension for a loan officer. He gave me this if I wanted an opportunity. I got a weird feeling. I thanked her like she'd handed me a lighthouse. I called the extension from the car and recorded the call with a verbal disclaimer. A polite voice asked, "Are you calling about Monday's wire window or postponing?" Postponing, I said, keeping my tone even, until my grandmother can review. Silence, then the click of keys. We have a scheduled draw of $12,500 on Monday at 10 a.m., initiated by the authorized email, the voice said. Which email? I asked. She read the burner. And the authorized signer? Manager, Ruth Family Holdings. I thanked her, requested the escalation note reflect my concern about elder exploitation, and hung up, hands shaking. Uncle Sam stared through the windshield at the bank logo like it could rearrange into cents. 12.5 to where? He asked. Operating account, I said. Probably Tyler's LLC. We drove straight to Attorney Diaz's office. He's calm the way good bridges are. We laid out documents, dates, and the coming wire. He explained in plain words. A HELOC is a revolving line secured by the house. Draws increase the balance. Missed payments risk foreclosure. A trust can be protective or a veil, depending on who holds the strings. Forged authorization is fraud. Undue influence is its cousin. The notarization concerns me, he said, circling the timestamp. Also the LLC piping. He recommended immediate steps. A limited power of attorney for Uncle Sam limited to HELOC matters. A revocation of any third-party authorization Grandma didn't knowingly grant. And a fraud alert with the bank's senior team. We can also file a temporary restraining order if necessary, he said. But we'll need Grandma present. Back at the house, Brooke sat on the porch with Grandma, phones on the table like holstered weapons. She smiled too brightly. We found a buyer for the ADU, she announced. Pre-leased even. Incredible demand. Grandma looked relieved and confused, like someone told her the clouds were on sale. Uncle Sam spoke softly. Ruth, do you want any of this? Grandma rubbed her wrist. I want my garden, she said. I asked Brooke about the burner Gmail. She waved a hand. Older people struggle with passwords. We streamlined. My chest burned. You streamlined control? I said. Tyler pulled up then, music thumping, grin in place. Family meeting, he declared. Diaz, please. Lawyers are fear brokers. He patted Grandma's shoulder. You trust me, right? The silence was a holler. Brooke glanced at Tyler, and for the first time, her confidence flickered. There it was, the mini twist, not what, but why. They were pressed for cash. Tyler's eyes had that brittle gleam of someone surfing 3 cards to pay a 4th. Grandma squeezed my fingers under the table like a Morse code prayer. Tyler set a folder down, and the top page showed Grandma's forged signature. The folder was for show, meant to flood the table with proof. I flipped through. Packaging. No actual authorization forms with Grandma's wet signature, just screenshots of online portals and cheerful, welcome to your new wealth tool. Emails addressed to the burner Gmail. Tyler smirked. Digital transformation, he said. Wet signatures are for boomers. Uncle Sam, voice like gravel, said, your grandmother is a boomer. Brooke reached for the folder. I slid it out of reach. I breathed and laid out our plan the way I would with a client scared and tired. First, we schedule a bank meeting with the branch manager and their compliance rep to put a formal pause and require in-person verification for any future draws. Second, Grandma signs a limited POA for Uncle Sam for HELOC and property tax matters only, in Diaz's office, with witnesses, no ambiguity, no access beyond scope. Third, we file a revocation letter for any third-party access not explicitly granted by Grandma, CCing the bank's legal department and head of elder protection. Fourth, we file a fraud report with the State Attorney General's Consumer Protection Unit. Fifth, we add a transfer on death deed that names beneficiaries but does not grant present control. This is how we protect the promise Grandpa made, I said. Brooke's lip trembled, then firmed. You're making it sound sinister. We meant to help. Tyler couldn't help himself. And monetize a little, he said, winking, like humor could decriminalize greed. Grandma's hands worried her napkin to cotton strings. I don't want anyone mad, she whispered. Uncle Sam said gently, people can survive anger. They can't always survive losing a house. I started recording a log. Date, time, who said what, who touched what paper. Documentation keeps memory honest. I called Diaz on speaker. We'll need everyone here at 9 a.m. Monday, he said. I'll have a notary present. No documents leave without Ruth's consent. Tyler said, I'm traveling Monday. I said, delay your plane. He grinned wider. I'm not flying. The room felt like static. Brooke, softer now, asked, if we undo the ADU plan, can we still? She stopped. The word was extract. I finished it for her in my head. I wrote the meeting invite and added Brooke and Tyler. 10 minutes later, an email came back. Meeting accepted, bringing my own counsel. Sunday evening, we did the thing Grandma loves. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, Fleetwood Mac low. For a sliver, it felt like the old cul-de-sac summers, except now the shadows inched across the wallpaper like obligations. Tyler arrived late, again, wearing confidence like cologne. His apology was to carve extra large and announce, big day tomorrow. Let's keep it civil. Uncle Sam said, civility without honesty is a costume. Brooke kept checking her phone, thumbs hovering, as if waiting for rescue. As if on cue, Tyler shifted tactics. Jamie, he said, tone syrupy, I've been hard on you. Renting can be strategic. Grandma perked up. That's kind, she said. He gave me a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I know people, he continued. There's a way we can structure this so everybody wins. You do advocacy. Let me handle capital. He reached for my forearm, and I pulled away. That's when he tightened his voice. Don't make this bigger than it is, he said. You'll stress Grandma. He glanced at her, shielding himself with her cardigan. I almost caved. That's the danger of family, the shortcuts our hearts take. Then Uncle Sam caught my eye and made the smallest shake of his head. What's small, Tyler? I asked steady. 12,000 here, 12 there? He threw his napkin. You don't understand opportunity cost. Brooke whispered, Tyler, like a leash. He leaned back and grinned. Fine. Tomorrow, We put on a show for Diaz and the bank. He tapped his watch. The 10 a.m. wire window closes fast. Grandma stood, small but straight. If I say stop, she said, you stop. Tyler plastered on a filial smile. Of course, Nana. The room pulsed with competing truths. I rinsed dishes and heard Tyler's whisper behind me. You think you're the hero because you rent? I said, I think I'm the granddaughter who listens. He stepped closer. Legacy requires vision, he hissed. Not small minds in smaller apartments. I turned off the faucet and looked him in the face. Legacy requires consent, I said. And consent requires understanding. When I left, the night smelled like lilacs and rain coming. A car idled at the curb, and someone inside lifted a camera toward me. Monday, 8:52 a.m. Diaz's conference room smelled like coffee and printer heat. Grandma wore her good brooch. Uncle Sam carried a tin of peppermints like he always does when stakes are high. Brooke arrived brisk, jaw set, in blazer armor. Tyler strolled in at 8:59 with a man in a navy suit and a smile that said, billable. The man introduced himself as counsel for Ruth Family Holdings. His handshake was firm, his eyes too interested in the framed diplomas. Diaz started with ground rules. One person speaks at a time, Ruth can pause anything, and all documents stay visible. The bank's compliance rep joined via video, and Mr. Naidu from the branch sat at the table with a yellow legal pad. I projected the timeline onto the wall: postcard contact, burner Gmail creation, assignment document with mismatched timestamp, survey flags, the scheduled draw. Diaz explained elder exploitation law in 3 sentences, plain and unspectacular, which is how truth should sound. The compliance rep nodded and said the bank had placed a temporary hold on the line pending in-person verification and a fraud review. Tyler's counsel cleared his throat. The LLC is authorized, he said. Ruth family agreed to a manager-managed structure to facilitate estate planning. Diaz asked, where is the operating agreement? Counsel slid a document across the table. I scanned, boilerplate, with a signature line for Ruth as member, signed in a swoop that tried to imitate her loopy R. I slid it to Grandma. Is this your signature? Diaz asked gently. She squinted. It looks like my name is trying to run away, she said. Brooke went pale. Ruth, the compliance rep said through the speaker, do you authorize any other party to request or receive draws from the line of credit secured by your home? Grandma's eyes filled. No, she said. I thought I was signing a postcard. The rep typed, then said, understood. We'll freeze the line and investigate. Tyler's lawyer shifted. We dispute the characterization, he said. My client acted in good faith under a reasonable belief of consent. Diaz placed another paper in front of Grandma, a limited POA for Uncle Sam for HELOC and taxes only. This gives Sam power to help you block bad things and pay the boring ones, he said. Grandma signed slowly, carefully, letters like stepping stones. We all exhaled. Then Naidu held up a printout. There's something else on the account profile, he said softly. A pending beneficiary change request we flagged at 7:12 a.m. The beneficiary name wasn't family. It was Brooke's staging company's corporate account. Brooke's hand flew to her mouth. That's a mistake, she said, voice thin. Autofill. Tyler stared at her like a magician whose assistant just spoiled the trick. What did you do? He whispered, fury leaking. It asked for a disbursement account for vendor payments, she stammered. I thought streamlining would help. Diaz's brows knit. Streamlining for whom? The compliance rep said. We've canceled the request pending our investigation and your POA. Naidu slid over the printout. Brooke refused to touch it. I pressed play on my recorded call from the parking lot. The polite voice mentioned the 10 a.m. wire window. This is not a misunderstanding, I said quietly. This is a system. I pulled up the LLC registry and Ruth Family Holdings Manager, Tyler LLC. I clicked a second tab, a UCC filing for a short-term loan in Tyler's name, collateralized partly by anticipated draws from affiliated entities. Diaz circled the line. Tyler's lawyer shifted again, the swivel creaking. UCC filings are public, I said. So is shame. Tyler's jaw worked. You're painting us as villains for using tools, he snapped. You rent because you're scared. You cling to Grandma's house because you need a story where you save someone. The room tilted. Grandma's voice arrived small but sharp. Stop speaking about me like I'm a story, she said. This is my house. Uncle Sam squeezed her shoulder. The compliance rep cleared her throat. We will be issuing a formal fraud review and will require in-branch reauthentication for any future changes, she said. All authorizations are revoked except those signed today. Tyler rounded on me. Congratulations, he spat. You froze capital that could have tripled. He leaned forward, eyes bright with injured pride. But you won't stop the market. I have options. Brooke whispered. Tyler. Again, but there was fear now, not velvet. Diaz calmly stacked papers, then slid a form across. Ruth, this is a rescission of any authorization you didn't intend, with dates, he said. She signed. I signed as witness. Uncle Sam signed. Tyler's lawyer sighed, deflated by dull, honest ink. I thought we were done when Naidu frowned at his screen. One more thing, he said. A title company placed an inquiry early this morning regarding a quitclaim deed template. He looked up. It referenced a caretaker housing arrangement. Diaz turned to Brooke and Tyler. If a quitclaim is already drafted, we'll need to see it now. Tyler slid a paper from his folder, and even his lawyer refused to look at it. The quitclaim was a Frankenstein. Wrong font, wrong margins, right fear. It conveyed Grandma's interest to Ruth Family Holdings for love and consideration. Diaz read aloud, steady as a metronome. Where did this come from? He asked. Tyler's stare went distant. Templates are templates, he said. Brooke's eyes brimmed. I didn't know about that one, she whispered. The compliance rep said the magic sentence. Any attempt to record that deed now would trigger our fraud hold and a report. Tyler swallowed. The mask slipped. Beneath the smirk was a boy who'd gambled and lost other people's oxygen. Consequences began moving, not dramatic, just relentless. Diaz filed a letter to the recorder putting them on notice of potential forged instruments regarding the parcel. Uncle Sam, with his new, tiny POA, called the utility company to lock any account changes. I filed a report with the state AG's office online, checking boxes I wish I never had to check for family. We met with Grandma's pastor, who sat with her afterward and told her the story of the prodigal, then talked about boundaries like fences that keep gardens safe. The prize for me arrived that afternoon. My clinic's Facebook page lit up with one-star reviews from burner accounts calling me a fraud who hates homeowners. My boss called, worried but supportive. Take screenshots, she said. We'll report the brigading. Someone posted a photo of me leaving Grandma's, tagged Renter Cop. I stared at my phone until the shapes went fuzzy. Then I put it down and made tea because motion stabilizes me. Grandma called to ask if she should take the photos down from the mantle because her smile made her feel guilty. I told her, leave them, and cried in my kitchen with the faucet on. That evening, Brooke texted me. I'm sorry. Tyler said it was just cash flow timing. I thought ADU income would help with her care. I typed and retyped before sending. Help is consent, not capture. She didn't reply. Tyler sent me one line. You made an enemy. I saved the text to my log, labeled it threat, petty. We went to bed early and slept like people who'd just moved a house back onto its foundation. At 2:13 a.m., a car alarm screamed outside Grandma's, and a brick shattered her porch light. Uncle Sam called me from Grandma's driveway, his voice tight. She's okay, he said. Light's done. Cops took a report. I drove over with a thermos and donuts because comfort sometimes needs sugar and caffeine. Dawn turned the street lavender. The porch looked hungover, glass glittering like confetti the morning after. Grandma sat in her robe at the kitchen table, a dish towel around her shoulders like a cape. I don't like this kind of attention, she said, trying to make it a joke. I've never been famous. I kissed her cheek. You're safe, and you're famous to me. We spent the morning on boundaries. Diaz drafted a letter to Brooke and Tyler, revoking any authority and stating contact terms. Everything in writing, no unannounced visits. No new signatures without Diaz present. We arranged a landline-only code word for Grandma to use if she felt pressured. Uncle Sam installed a motion light and a doorbell camera. I set up fraud alerts on Grandma's credit with the 3 bureaus, mailing the letters like tiny shields. We also discussed practical care, a vetted home aide 3 afternoons a week, paid from a simple, transparent account with Uncle Sam's limited POA oversight. No more shadow streamlining. Then the healing work. Pastor Evelyn came by with lemon bars, read Psalm 27 softly, and told Grandma that boundaries are love in action. We made a schedule for visits so she wouldn't feel ambushed. Brooke texted to ask if she could come alone to apologize. Diaz said yes, supervised, later in the week. Tyler said nothing. The silence was a good sign. Bravado relocating. That afternoon, Grandma and I walked the backyard. She touched the survey flags and shook her head. I don't want a tiny house, she said. I want my tomatoes. We pulled the flags like dandelions. The earth gave easily. Inside, we printed a big sign. No solicitation, no signatures at door. Grandma taped it next to the mailbox with the seriousness of posting a treaty. In the evening, we sat with tea and a jigsaw puzzle of a lighthouse. The porch light stayed intact. The street was quiet. It wasn't perfection, it was enough. I wrote one more log entry, dated and timed, then put down my pen and let the lighthouse emerge from cardboard ocean. My phone buzzed with an email subject line that jolted my stomach. Recording request received. Quitclaim deed filing. Status. Cancelled. Initiator, Tyler Oak. A week later, Grandma's house felt like itself again. The clocks tick, the kettles sigh, the bird feeder chaos. She asked me to hang the framed mortgage note next to the new letter from the bank confirming the fraud hold and in-branch-only rules. 2 promises, she said, satisfied. Brooke arrived with daisies and an apology that sounded like a person learning a second language. Clumsy, sincere. I believed in leverage more than in listening, she said. Diaz nodded once, clerking the moment into our ledger of repairs. Tyler didn't come. A certified letter returned unclaimed. We met with Diaz one last time to finalize the transfer on death deed naming beneficiaries evenly, with a clause about no encumbrances without a family meeting and counsel. Grandma signed with care, the way she cuts pie. Confident, fair. We set up her caregiver schedule and a simple budget written in pen on a lined pad she keeps by the phone. Uncle Sam posted the landline code word on the fridge, hidden in plain sight inside a crossword. I added a magnet that says, "Ask Jamie," and Grandma laughed until she wheezed. At my apartment that night, I watered my 2 plants and thought about rent. People like Tyler call rent throwing money away. But tonight my rent felt like a choice that let me respond quickly, without a mortgage drowning me, without chasing leverage like a high. I thought about Grandpa's porch rail and the dime and the prayer. I thought about the way Grandma's hand steadied when we put the tomatoes back in the ground, about Brooke's bruised pride softening into responsibility, about Uncle Sam's peppermints leaking through his pocket like small kindnesses. If you're watching this and renting, hear me, your dignity doesn't need a deed. Ownership is not proof of adulthood, consent is. If someone in your family calls you small for choosing stability, ask for the documents, dates, amounts, emails. Pull the recorder's index. Call the bank. Say the hard words calmly. Boundaries are love in real life, boring and enforceable. The market is not your mother. Your home is where someone can't take your name off a page. I fell asleep with the window open. The cities hum a lullaby I rent by choice. In the morning, tomatoes sprouted and Grandma texted. The house exhaled. So did I.